Welcome everybody to Anfield, which is just about calming down after what Gary rightly described as bedlam. This is the Gary Neville Podcast, so Gary, I'm going to ask you to try and somehow rationalise the bedlam we've just seen in terms both of the title race, of the piece of theatre we've just enjoyed together, and of course all of the contentious issues that go around it. Where do you want to start?
Oh, let's start with the title race, because that's the thing. I mean, a number of people leading up to today's match in the studio before the match, I think Roy Keane, I think Daniel Sturridge, Jamie Carragher, Micah Richards all said that if Liverpool beat City here today, then it's title done, Arsenal have won it. Maybe I didn't go that far in the interviews that I did with Sky Sports News, but you knew full well that it was going to be a big problem being 9 points behind. The way in which Arsenal looked, they looked so solid. And nothing changes that actually in this result here. But what does change the title race is the pressure that the team behind you applies, as it does get more nervy going into March and April. And if you've got 9 points to play with, it's a lot better than 6. I have to say that City have a big chance. They have a big chance to go and put some pressure on a team that have not won a title before. Not one Arsenal player really has got the experience of winning Premier League titles, and the manager hasn't either. Directly. So I think from that point of view, it's an unbelievable opportunity for City to beat Fulham on Wednesday night. That becomes critical now for City, to go and beat Fulham on Wednesday night and go to within 3 points. Arsenal play away at an informed Brentford on Thursday. Now, I think Arsenal will win. I think Arsenal are a stronger side. But if you just want to keep asking questions, you've just got to be on the shoulder and just keep poking them. And just letting them know that you're there. You can't poke people if you're too far behind them. So just letting them know that you're there and putting them under pressure. And with 7 or 8 games to go, if they can be within 3, 4, 5, 6 points, it will cause Arsenal some problems. And there is a game at the Etihad where Arsenal have got to go there. So look, that was monumental, that last 5-10 minutes for Manchester City in respect of keeping pressure on Arsenal, for them to... It's almost like they've not wanted to get involved in a title race. This last few weeks, they've won 1 in 6. I mean, last week at Tottenham, you're like, go and kill them off in the first half. They go 2-0 up and then they let Tottenham back in it. I mean, it's madness, absolute madness, some of the things that we've seen from City in this last few weeks when you think of the experience that they have. And it's almost like a case of wake up. And there was a moment in that second half when Pep Guardiola started to get lower and lower in his manager's seat. And that was at 0-0. And then obviously as soon as the goal goes, he thinks, here we go, I'm here again. I'm at Anfield. I just can't win a game here hard. They've won 1 in 10. City have won 3 here in 53, which is just incredible. And you said they've never done the double over them since 1937. I mean, that is absolute madness when you think about it. So, look, what's just happened... We've had a couple of really big Super Sundays recently. The United-Arsenal one felt big a couple of weeks ago, and this one feels really big today. I do want to mention the goal at the end that was... I don't think Erling Haaland scored. I think it's Cherky, actually.
It's Cherky's goal, yeah.
Yeah, Cherky kicked it, didn't he? And then there was the wrestle between Szoboszlai first on Haaland and then Haaland on Szoboszlai. Look, we know that the referee and the VAR officials have got to the right conclusion. But if you're in the camp of VAR's ruining football and VAR takes the joy out of the game and it's taken away the entertainment, that has just been one of the best bits of evidence that you'll possibly want, because... That was a great football moment in a season where you just got absolute bedlam at the end of a game, players fouling each other, the ball dribbling in the net, a team coming from 1-0 down that have hardly ever won here and basically going winning 3-1. Fans celebrating with the players on the pitch. There was a little bit of a mini invasion from a couple of City fans. It's the classic sort of English football moment, isn't it, in a season where you think, if you look back at the end and City were to start narrowing the gap on Arsenal, you'd look at that moment there as being the celebration, the moment. I think 10 City players on the bench ran over and celebrated with Haaland. So, yeah, it just felt like a golden moment that basically is taken away from the game. Liverpool fans didn't particularly want it at that point. They knew the game had gone. Szoboszlai now gets a red card, so he's off and doesn't play next week. So, yeah, no one wins, I think. But look, if I'm being cold about it, the referee, VAR officials have got to the right decision, but something didn't smell right about it at all. They didn't need to intervene. And I'm not saying that you can be subjective about when you intervene in the emotion of a football match. You've got to apply the rules and the laws, or else we'd go crazy, wouldn't we? And if that had been 0-0, we'd have said absolutely make sure you make the right decision. But at that moment, it just didn't feel right. But that aside, we'll not go on about that too long. That is a big win for Manchester City. At a point whereby in that second half they were sort of looked like they were down in the dumps.
I mean, some of the great moments of the game, Szoboszlai's free kick, sadly, doesn't seem to matter anymore, does it? And, I mean, you don't see a better free kick than that.
No.
And what a great performance from him, too.
Yeah, I mean, he was brilliant. He was brilliant, Szoboszlai. I think that he gets moved around quite a bit in different parts of midfield, and obviously he's played right back, but he's such an adaptable player. He's such a great sort of physical presence on the pitch. The way he's got a great running style about him. He's got great quality technically. He understands the game. There might be a question mark about him on the first Manchester City goal where he's just a yard deeper, and people will say, oh, that's because he doesn't know the position. And I think I said it actually after the goal, but there was times where I played a yard deeper. When it happens so quickly sometimes, like it did with the Haaland flick on to Bernardo Silva, you can get caught sometimes to, not in line with your centre-back. But he was fantastic, Szoboszlai, and that free kick was world class. We've seen it here, haven't we, before? I mentioned about the 2 in the wall versus 3, 4 maybe. That's something that, obviously Donnarumma won't be able to correct today, but maybe others moving forward will think about how many they have in the wall from Szoboszlai, maybe think about having more in there. But yeah, that just felt like, I think Liverpool deserved the goal at that period in the game. They were the better team. Ekitike had missed a big chance. I think Salah had one where it had come back to him and he'd not got hold of it. Salah's not showing his best, is he? He's nowhere near his best. He's been so consistent for so long, and there's always going to be a prolonged dip. But this is a prolonged dip. I mean, there were times out there today he didn't recognise him, but he did put a beautiful ball in, I think, for one of the chances. But yeah, Liverpool at that point, you're thinking they're going to win the game. Anfield has beat and swallowed Manchester City up again. It's sucked them in, thinking they're doing okay. And our manager used to have a saying, you're never okay here. No. Never think you're okay here. Because if you do, the minute you think you're okay, that crowd gets up and you're done. And that's what happened again here. But from somewhere, I just said Erling Haaland, Cherky, Bernardo Silva, you need to show up.
Donnarumma, by the way.
Oh, he was fantastic.
I mean, not just that brilliant save at the end, but every time he came for it,
the punches.
He got it.
Yeah, he was fantastic, Donnarumma. You talk about a goalkeeper who makes a massive difference to a team and a presence. And if City are going to win the league, they're going to need something really special because they're not the best team. For once, they're not the best team. Arsenal are the best team. Arsenal have got the best squad. Arsenal are playing the best football. They're the most consistent. They're the most solid. But what you can never do is write off Pep Guardiola and the likes of Donnarumma and Haaland because they've got it in them. They've just got it in them to produce something. They know their way around the block. They know what it's going to be like in that last 5 or 6 matches. So the one thing that Arsenal have just got to be careful of is those 3 big characters. I know City have got more than that. They've got Diaz and Bernardo Silva and Foden and Rodri. They've got amazing players. But the goalkeeper, the centre forward and the manager are the 3 people who I think can win Manchester City this league. Guardiola's presence, his ability to get something and win and just continually win, and he's a winning machine. And then those 2 are just massive physical presences and dominant and world class in their positions. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting last 13 matches, and we're not into the sort of home straight yet. But City were in danger of not being involved in the home straight if they carried on as they were. But that should, you said, I think in the second half it'll relight their fire. Must relight their fire. They can't let go of that. They can't make a mistake against Fulham on Wednesday. They can make a mistake next Saturday if they like. They're playing a League 2 team in the FA Cup. Yeah. And if he wants to rest a few, he can. You
remember how many they scored in the third round against Exeter, Gary? You're not?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another story. A Liverpool perspective on this, because you're talking about, as you say, not quite in the end game, but getting close to it. In that race for the Champions League, which we'll come to in the context of Manchester United in a moment, actually, they are the ones a little bit off it now.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That'll be a tough take, that. That will be a really tough take, I think, for Arne Slot and his players. However, if they can somehow compartmentalise it to a bit of a freak of a game, which it was, and actually first half they didn't play very well at all, they were poor. But second half, they actually were dominant for probably 35, 40 minutes, and they were the better team. So from that perspective, they're 1-0 up, and all of a sudden, madness happens and chaos happens, and they end up losing the game 2-1. If they can compartmentalise that and put it into a box quite quickly, and not let it infect and create something negative in here, then they still be fine and they'll still be okay. It's whether they are strong enough right now mentally to be able to cope with the games every 3 days, big, challenging sort of fixtures like that don't go their way, and the fact that they're now 5 points, 4 points behind sort of top 5. That's not a big gap at all, and there's a long way to go, and they'll have to play most of the teams above them, so they've got loads of opportunities. But there's a question mark, isn't there, over Liverpool? There is a question mark, and there is a question mark as to whether they will finish in the Champions League spaces. I still think they will, but what they have to do is box that up very quickly and chuck it in a corner and forget about it and say what it is. Not good enough first half, but stayed in the game and were resilient and kept a clean sheet. Second half, dominated for the first 35 minutes, got the goal, should have seen it home, but didn't. And the 2 goals that they concede, unlike Alisson, the second one, being honest with you, not like him to be rash. We talked about Donnarumma. Alisson, I put him in the same category. He's a great goalkeeper, fantastic. Usually reads situations really well. Normally has the ability to sort of go out, look like he's going to slide at someone, but then pull back and not make the challenge. For him to clatter through there and hit the player, that's not like him. So, not a good moment for him, but yeah, everyone has one of those moments. And then the first goal, obviously, is that one where just a flick on, innocuous, really. Runner from Bernardo Silva, and then just Szoboszlai being a little bit deeper. But look, it can happen. That can happen. There'll be some who say, well, it's happening far too often. You know, Bournemouth now here, conceding goals late on. So there'll be those who say, you know, something's wrong, something's fundamentally wrong, structurally wrong. But I think they just need to try and compose themselves if they can, pull themselves together. They've got a lot of experience with Alisson, McAllister, Van Dijk, Salah, Gravenberch. They've got lots of experience there. Players who know what to do. And can they hold it together? Can they just keep it going and sort of just get back on the back? Who did they play midweek, by the way?
Liverpool.
Yeah, Liverpool. And City play Fulham, don't they? I know.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at my notes. And Liverpool go to Sunderland.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Awkward, isn't it? So go and win there if you really want to sort of, you know, tell everybody that you're still going to be in the Champions League, that you can basically not been impacted by today. Go and win at Sunderland, which will be a tough place to go. Go and win there emphatically. Be professional. Keep a clean sheet. And that's where everyone needs to look now for Liverpool. How are they going to recover from that? Because it'll be tough in there, and there'll be a dressing room that will be really low.
In that Champions League chase, I said this to you last week or the week before, but obviously somebody has to miss out. And I wonder whether, if you're an Aston Villa supporter, you'd be a little bit nervous at the moment. It's been so good for so long, and they didn't beat Bournemouth yesterday, and the others are reeling them in.
Yeah, I did say last week Villa could miss out on the podcast. But I said I hope they wouldn't. And the manager, to be fair, knows what to do. But they've got their 3 midfield players missing, haven't they? McGinn, Tielemans and Kamara, yeah. And they're out for quite a while, aren't they? It's a big ask for Villa to miss, you know, that their engine room, the heart of the team. So that's the big question on them. But again, Unai Emery, someone who you wouldn't put it past him to find a way. You know, he has an ability to find a way. Look, all teams, the team that we're probably most confident about finishing in sort of out of Chelsea, Liverpool, Villa, United, is United right now because of what they're doing. But things can turn around quite quickly. I don't think anybody in that top 5 or 6 is going to be sat there saying we're okay. Even City, to be fair, before, you know, if they'd lost today, City would have been thinking, we better just get a few points. City will be okay, but, you know, there's no one who'll feel safe because it's a bizarre season. Teams are beating each other when we don't think they can beat each other. Strange things are happening. But at this moment, it's a little bit glass half empty for Liverpool. It is, after today. But there's 13 games to go, and in 3-4 games, with 9 games to go, we might be thinking it's glass half empty for Chelsea, for Manchester United, for Villa. We don't know where it's going to go. But at the moment, Arne Slot, just see him doing his interview here, he's got a big job to do. And the senior players in the dressing room have got a big job to do with him, because there'll be despondency, I think, around the ground tonight with the fans, with the players. There'll be a feeling that this is not going well. But compartmentalise it and box it up as being one of those things. These are big games. You can lose them. They're 50-50, these games.
OK, so the other ones at the top, Arsenal won at home, as expected. Chelsea won at Wolves, as expected, which leaves Manchester United, who I guess helped on their way by Christian Romero, but even so won very, very efficiently, played again some very, very attractive football, and are right in the thick of it now.
Yeah, I mean, on Christian Romero first, he can be a world-class, game-changing, match-winning defender, aggressive, dominant, and then in the next breath he can be a reckless liability. The problem is for Tottenham at the moment, the reckless liability is performing more often than the world-class game-changing defender. He's been made captain. And look, I've been sent off a few times and I was captain as well. So, I'm not sat here from a sort of ivory tower looking down thinking that sort of everything's perfect in my world. But he's just doing it far too often. And look, there's no doubt Argentinian defenders, Uruguayan defenders, I think South American defenders have that real sort of horrible, nasty way about them. I love it, by the way. There was one played for Juventus when we were playing back in the day. Oh, he's called Montero. I can't remember his name now, but he was absolutely so tough. But he got sent off about 3 trillion times. You know what I mean? Every other week it felt like. And Romero, his teammates needed him yesterday, and he's been given the captaincy. And he's been given the captaincy to bring, maybe to calm him down, to compose himself, just to give a bit of stability. And he's really let his teammates down again there yesterday. And obviously his words earlier on the week aren't helpful either. So on and off the pitch as a captain, he's not had a great week. And that obviously makes the game a little bit more comfortable, a lot more comfortable for Manchester United. But the first goal was fantastic. I mean, both goals were fantastic for Manchester United. That free kick, that corner that United scored was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely, so well worked, so well drilled, finding an opportunity. The way in which the sort of Tottenham player at the edge of the box just got sucked in a little bit, and then he played it inside him into the edge of the box. Really, really well worked. Coaching team take a massive amount of credit for that. And I thought the second goal as well. I just loved the way that Dalot, we talked about Dalot a couple of weeks ago on here, and I got a lot of heat from United fans thinking that basically you've lost your mind. I'll say it again. I think Dalot has got something in him as a right back. Stick him at right back, keep a stable defence with Maguire, Martinez and Shaw, and I think Dalot will perform at 7 out of 10, week in, week out, if he just simplifies his game and does what he did yesterday. Just whip it into the box. It's the job of the others in there to be there. You just get it out your feet and whip it in. He put a lovely ball in, and it was a tough one for Bruno Fernandes to be able to actually manage and hit. But I'll tell you what, it was an exceptional technique. And look, I can't believe where United are. No. If you think I watched them 6 out of those 7 games before Ruben Amorim was sacked, and the one after against Burnley when Darren Fletcher took over. And, I mean, it was terrible. It was shocking. It really was shocking. And what Michael Carrick has done, he's rebuilt trust instantly and faith. The players obviously straight away are listening. They're trusting in what the message is. And it's a complete about turn. And he's done more than that. The results are excellent. The performances are fantastic. Really good performances. Really, really good. I like what I see. He's rebuilt faith in actually the system of play, in the 4-4-1-1, and the way in which United should always play. Cunha left, Ahmad right, Bruno close and off, and Mbeumo, the 2 in midfield. He's rebuilt faith, and I'm probably, to be fair, relating this entirely to the Kobbie Mainoo situation, in the fact that Manchester United have to have faith in their academy players, but it's only one player, but he's a pretty good player. And I'm not saying that every Manchester United player that comes through the academy should get more chances than the others. They shouldn't. But they should be given a chance and a fair crack of the whip. And he wasn't given a fair crack of the whip in the first 4 or 5 months of the season. And now he's playing in there alongside Casemiro. He's having a wonderful swan song, isn't he? If you think about how Casemiro is, he almost feels free. that he knows he's leaving at the end of the season. It's an incredible swan song and his form's fantastic. But Kobbie Mainoo in there alongside him just looks so smooth, just looks so comfortable. So everything at the moment for United is looking really, really good. And yeah, they do look at the moment like they really have got an incredible chance because of the fact they haven't got the confusion and the chaotic fixture list that some of the others have. You would think that they've got a massive chance now with the way in which Michael Carrick has set about the job in getting into the Champions League, which was unthinkable only 4 or 5 weeks ago. Unthinkable.
Yeah, so, and this is going to be asked so often in the next 2 or 3 months, I mean, at what point does it become impossible not to give Michael Carrick the job, and or can it never be Michael Carrick?
Yeah, well, look, Peter, I made my sort of position clear a few weeks ago, and what I'm not going to do on this podcast is repeat it every week. But what I did, look, I actually spoke to the club because ultimately the club get asked all the time, officially from journalists, broadcasters, what's the position of the club? How are the club going to deal with this? Because it's a very difficult situation. You've got a massive movement now with what's happened towards giving Michael Carrick the job and saying that really he should be considered. And that's only going to build the more that he wins and the more that he gets closer to Champions League football. Actually, I asked the club, I said, what is the official position of the football club in terms of what you're saying publicly to everybody else? And I asked them, and I have to say, I thought their answer was pretty good. They said, look, we've actually begun our process now, starting to look for another manager. Which I thought, well, that's good to hear, because you need to plan for everything. So they've started the process of going, speaking to, and I think looking at other managers, building all the sort of data, the analysis of who should be the next manager of the football club. But what they've said is they're not going to be bounced into, irrespective of wins or draws or losses on the pitch in this next couple of months, making an appointment. They're going to wait towards the end of the season. If Michael then at that point makes himself available for the job, and I did say actually a couple of weeks ago on my podcast that I wondered whether Michael actually would say, no, I was told to come in here for the rest of the season, and actually that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to hand over the baton to someone else. Because he is that type of guy, Michael. He's someone who, to be fair, would always work in the best interests of the football club. And he may do that. Or he might say, no, I feel comfortable enough. I've built such a good relationship with the players. I've got a fantastic relationship with my coaching staff. I think we can do a great job here. I want to put my name in the hat and I want to basically put myself forward. At that point, Michael Carrick, like in any other recruitment role in the country for any other business, would go into what would be process versus probably the likes of Tuchel and all the others that are going to become available in the summer. So I think that's fair. I think that at this moment in time, Manchester United don't need to answer the question. I don't need to repeat my position every single week, but what I would say is that at the end of the season, Manchester United, if Michael Carrick puts himself forward, has the ability to make the decision as to whether they go for Michael Carrick or one of the other candidates that become available. And all I will say right now is, if Michael Carrick is selected or he's not selected, no one can be 100% sure of what the right decision is when it comes to Manchester United. All you can do is go with what your feeling is and your opinion and think of it for the right reasons. So, yeah, I think that we can put that to bed maybe for the next couple of months because the club have said they're going to look at this and not going to be bounced into making a decision. And if they win another 4 or 5 and they're almost emphatically in the Champions League, and that will be incredible. It'd be a great position to be in, by the way. If you think about where probably Jim Ratcliffe, Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox thought they were going to be maybe a few weeks ago, is that Michael Carrick at the end of the season, Manchester United might be in 6th or 7th, and they're making a decision whereby they're not in the Champions League. This is perfect. This is exactly what they would have wanted, where there is a complete and utter uplifting performance. There's more faith being built in the players. The players all of a sudden look like they can play football at the level that they were when they signed. And Manchester United can make a decision at the end of the season based on the managers that make themselves available. And let's see what they do. My opinion is not the important one. It's the opinion of what those Manchester United executives think at the end of the season when they're interviewing the likes of Tuchel and Howe and Ancelotti, Nagelsmann, whoever else, Enrique, Carrick, etc. Hopefully they'll have a lot of choice and they'll be able to make that choice well.
Yeah. Well, I promise not to ask you that question again.
You can.
For at least a fortnight.
No, look, I mean, they're in a great position. It's been an incredible turnaround. What Michael has done. One thing I will say is, I don't buy into this. I don't buy into this. All he had to do was put the players in the right positions, and it was obvious what would happen. I don't buy into that at all. I think there is some exceptional coaching and exceptional work going on with the players. From the set piece that we saw yesterday, from the very first game, the interlink, the combinations. Yeah, of course they've put players in the right positions. Of course they've basically sort of put square pegs in square holes rather than square pegs in round holes. I get that. But we're also very quick to sort of have a go at managers and coaches when they put sort of square pegs in square holes, play a certain system. I mean, I remember actually... I'm a fan of 4-4-2. I always have been. Or 4-4-1-1. I always have been for United. Even though under Eric Ten Hag, I did say at one point maybe this team should actually be suited going to a 3. But let's be really clear. I'm a 4-4-1-1 person. And Darren Fletcher went to 4-4-1-1, 4-4-2 in his 2 games against Burnley and Brighton and lost. So that's the best signal. Forget what Ruben Amorim did. Darren Fletcher put square pegs in square holes, and we didn't get the level of performance. All of a sudden, Michael Carrick, Steve Holland, Johnny Evans, Jonathan Woodgate have come in. They've put the 4-4-2 system or 4-4-1-1 system out on the pitch. Similar players, excepting Ahmad and Mbeumo come back, which are a factor. And the combinations and the way in which the team work together is completely and utterly different. So there is some high-quality work going on the training ground. Because, trust me, we have this big thing, don't we? Whatever we see on a Saturday is a reflection of what happens on the training ground. We can't use that in reverse when we see really good combinations and good work, and then say, "Oh, by the way, they just thrown the players out there onto the pitch." No, they haven't thrown the players out there onto the pitch. That's not what happened. So for me, I think it's been so good. I'm so happy for Michael because, to be fair, the opposite of that would have been 2 defeats against Arsenal and City, or City and Arsenal. Not scoring that last minute winner against Fulham, and then Tottenham not getting a man sent off yesterday and drawing. All of a sudden they'll be like doom and gloom. You've always got to think about where United are. It's always this or this, and it always has been. And by the way, that's back in the day when we lost a game. It was a crisis. Absolute. Lost 1 game. It was a crisis. Manchester United lost 2 games. It was a real problem. So it's always a bit like that with United. But I think Michael has just brought such composure, such professionalism. He's got a good character for this type of moment, and the players are responding to him, and it's brilliant. It's just nice to be talking about a positive Manchester United for once.
Yeah, fabulous. Anything else, Gary? We haven't even touched on the bottom, which is really interesting now. West Ham catching up.
Well done to Palace.
Yeah.
Do you know something? I like West Ham from what I saw last week against Chelsea. West Ham play United on Tuesday. That's a lot more difficult game than it would have been a month or so ago. The 2 lads up front for West Ham, Pablo and Castellanos, are a real handful. Somerville and Bowen in the wide areas, a real handful. Yeah, they've got problems at the back, and I think Manchester United will cause West Ham problems. But going that way, West Ham, I think, will have something to say. And I think that West Ham, I thought Leeds were done pre-Christmas, and then we went and watched those games against Chelsea and Liverpool, and that made me think differently about Leeds. I thought, oh, here we go. Leeds have got something about them. West Ham last week, I thought something about them as well. I have to say, Crystal Palace's win today is massive, because they were the ones that I could see sliding down, and they've just arrested that slide. They're not out of it, but I do think that Forest, West Ham, Leeds are awkward customers, and there might be a team that just gets dragged into it. Yeah. And Tottenham need to wake up as well.
Yeah. Well, 13 games to go. We've got some great narratives.
Yeah, and look, I think there's a lot to look forward to. There's some good games to go and good games left.
Fabulous.
Thanks,
Gary.
Thanks, Peter. Well done.